Let's get started. For those of you who might be new, my name is Paul Lachelier. I'm the founder and the director of Learning Life and this program. And we are today focusing on, it's the second of 3 sessions on family. And today is focused on global family demographics and trends. And so we have 2 professors from the State University of Arizona State University, right? Arizona State University, ASU, who are joining us. It's actually, for those of you who were here last time, you might recall, it's a mom and a daughter who happen to teach at the same school and teach the same topic. So it's all the more apt that we're doing family diplomacy, that we have a mom and a daughter who are going to be guiding us today. Before we get into that, I do want to go over a couple of things, just kind of housekeeping items, and I will share this via email as well as through our Facebook chat group for the FD trainees. But one thing is, if you don't have your camera on, that's totally fine. If it's necessary for you to try to keep the connection. But if you're able to turn on your camera, please do. It's important for us to be able to see you, to make sure that you're engaged. If you don't have your camera on, I may occasionally ask to see if you're actually paying attention. So I may ask you a question, and if you're not paying attention, we'll just consider you absent for the day. So I just want to kind of flag that for you, for those who have your cameras off. It's important to just make sure that you are indeed paying attention. These sessions are, it costs money to put these sessions on, and there's a lot that's being covered in these sessions, so we want you to be engaged fully in what's going on. So that's one thing. Second thing is, so we have, I believe, Dia may not be here, but I think Summer and April, if you guys could tell us, Summer and April and Dia are 3 interns who are with us this summer, and they are helping us to gather family profiles for some of you that we don't have those profiles for. The family profiles are important to be able to kind of share with the world who's participating in our training, and also to determine, among other things, what kind of story that you may be telling about your family and the issues impacting your family. And so Summer and April, of the people here, do you have some sense of what you need from whom that you're missing in terms of either profile answers or pictures? Summer, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so let me see the list. Bilal and Umar, I'm missing family profiles for actually all of them, including like family composition. So if you can get back to me on that, that'd be great. I messaged you on both of you on Facebook. If it didn't go through, it did go through, but I can send it again after this meeting. And do you want me to go over whose Facebook profiles I'm missing right now or after?
Yeah, if you can do that, that would be great.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that now. Okay, and for everyone else, I can also repeat this in the chat because so that way, like to avoid confusion, but I'm missing the Facebook profile of Yu Tang and of the people here, I mean, I'm missing the Facebook profile of Yu Yang if he's here. I think I saw him, he may have left. And I'm missing, and that's it, of people who are here. And also for everyone, if you could provide me with your date of birth with your day, month, and year. I know I already asked you guys for that, but if you could resend that with your year, that'd be great. Thank you.
Great. And so April, do you want to report on what you're missing in terms of family profiles? Oop, looks like April is not currently,
Um,
webcam's
I
dying.
um, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I'm not too sure right now, but I will message the people that I need. Since Summer went off the general like attendance list, that's like basically right. Summer, you went through so you went through the whole attendance list of like what she's missing. So that's kind of what's missing from everyone, right? So I don't really know
Yes,
what
but you have you're taking care of certain family profiles, right?
Yes, and I will message those people. I'm not too sure right now.
Okay. Yeah, if you can just kind of create have a list ready of people that you're missing family profiles from, so that when we have our meetings, you can just kind of report to those people at these meetings, who we're missing stuff from. That would be great for just upcoming Sundays. Okay, I think we are set for this. So I am going to briefly introduce our the two professors who are speaking with us today. In fact, I'm going to share my screen so that you have a sense of both of them, and if you want to kind of take a closer look at both of them, I'm going to include that here. So hold on a second. I'm sharing my screen. Okay. So to introduce the mom first, we have Denise Bodman, who's a principal lecturer in the Sanford School of Social and Family Dynamics at Arizona State University. As you can see here, her scholarly interests include parenting, family processes, health and family, healthy family and human development, particularly positive psychology, which interestingly enough is just what Bethany is interested in as well, kindness, hope, and forgiveness. Denise is also interested in family history and family narratives and how these build hope, esteem, and resilience in individuals and family, which is perfect for us. Her research includes cross-cultural comparisons of parent-adolescent relationships, including parent-adolescent relationships and academic achievement in Beijing, China. And her teaching activities emphasize culture, human development, family relationships, and parenting. Her recent book, which I believe was co-authored, you two co-authored this book, right? So this is an updated, description. Introduction to Family Processes, Diverse Families, Common Ties, was published by Taylor Francis Publishing House. If you guys are interested, Denise or Bethany, great if you're willing to kind of share the link to that in the Zoom chat. I think we will actually post that to our 16,000 people on our Facebook group to let them know about your new book. So that is mom, Denise, and Bethany is, as you might recall from our description last time, she is a teaching professor and director of the online graduate program in family and human development in the same school at Arizona State University. She's a proud Sun Devil, having received her bachelor's in psychology and her PhD in educational psychology from ASU. She's been in the teaching faculty since 2007. Teaching activities emphasize statistics, research methods, parenting, and human development. Her scholarly interests include parenting, positive psychology, family processes, personal and family narratives, the measurement of race and ethnicity, ethnic self-identification, and power in longitudinal data analysis. So yeah, so that's the introduction to our trainers for today. And with that said, I'm handing it off to Denise and Bethany.
Okay, let me get this sharing stuff going. I was trying to find a coupon code. Boardman, don't we have a coupon code for our book?
Yeah,
I'll have to keep looking.
it's on my email.
I thought it was on my email, but okay.
If not a big deal if you don't happen to have it now. I know I kind of like surprised you with that, but you can get me that information and I'll share it next time, and I'll share it on yeah, to our group and then to the chat group as well.
I will look for it. Just if there's a coupon code, I hate to give anything without a coupon code.
It is so good to see all of you. And I'm so glad that we have this opportunity to meet with you, even though it's virtual. You know, it's like we are connected from around the world, and that is really cool. Today, we're going to be talking about demography, and which is a big word. It is essentially the study of groups and populations. So we look at numbers, we look at graphs, we look at how different aspects of our population are changing, and how this might affect families. So we might look at things like how many more single parents we have, or what is the literacy rate of a country, something like that, because these have implications for us. They have implications for our home, they have implications politically, they have social implications. So we're going to take a look at how these influence families as well as governments and policies. This is just a funny picture. This is Bethany and her family, I think. She's got lots of children. But I'm going to throw out a question to all of you. How does the number of children affect a family? And how might it affect a society? Yes, go ahead. Begum.
Thank you. I think the number of the children, the important thing is that if the family is able to take care of all their children. So if they are, they have the enough wealth, if they have enough material resources, but also the emotional and immaterial resources like support and psychological support, then the number of children would be as a plus for both the family and the society. But if they are not very well educated, if they are poor, and if they, they lack the relevant emotional mechanisms that a child needs to grow while growing. So the important things are like this, in my opinion.
So it sounds like what you're saying is the number of children can affect families differently depending on the resources the family has, economically or even mental health-wise.
Yes. This is what I mean, but also in terms of the cultural and traditional aspects, maybe we can say also it depends on the context, because some of the families think that the girls should not get education, or the girls can get married in an early ages. So this would be a problem for the society if they are undereducated, or if they are child, while they're children, they get married. So yes, material resources, but also the educational level and other immaterial resources.
Okay, thank you.
And
you want?
just to remind, sorry, Denise, just to remind everybody, if you can, please just tell us where you're connecting from, so that we know where where your words are spoken from, what perspective. Begum is just so you guys know, is joining us from Turkey.
Yes.
But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Zeneng, you on?
Yes, I came from China, but I'm currently studying in Canada, UBC in Vancouver. And can you hear me? Excuse me?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, so let's continue. So I mean, like, having children can indeed really can really increase our life satisfaction in terms of sociology, and but however, it will cause a decrease of marital satisfaction, because like having more children means that the couples needs to sacrifice their free time and their finance in their daily life. Like maybe in the past, the parents, a couple can you'll do something freely as they want, because they can indeed do anything that they want. But if they have children, they have to think about how much money they should invest on that children and how much time they should spend with that children. So it's one of the biggest influences on the like on couples, on individual perspective. However, if we think about it from a society, having more children means a heavier pressure, because a society has to give these children like education, medical care, and also like even like safety. However, but in East Asia, like South Korea, China, and Japan, today's birth rate is pretty low. It's even lower than replacement rate. Like the replacement rate is 2.1, right? However, and currently in East Asia, the birth rates are below 2.1, even below 1. So which means that maybe in future, these countries will die out. Yes, will disappear in the world if they cannot have more babies. So in these societies, like in China, the Chinese government keep encouraging people to have baby, but how even though it's really provides so many very good, not very good, but so many policies to motivate and to encourage people to have children, have babies. However, it's often ignores like the rights of women and also like the cost that cost of education, and also they like they ignores like human rights to some extent. Like in China, the labor cost is pretty low because China has a very large population. So many companies do not consider their labors as labors. They just consider their labors as a very easy replace the resource. So many people choose not to have children. It's more like a sort of revenage, like just to they don't just want to have children because they don't want their children to suffer from the same tribulation as what they are suffering from now. So maybe in Asia, having more children is not a bad idea, but many people do not so prefer not to have children because of heavier social pressure and the ignorance of women rights. Yeah.
Wow, you just focused on half the things we're going to be talking about today. So thank you very much. Mohammed, I think you were next.
Hello.
I hear you.
Again.
And Mohammed, where are you joining from? Just remember, everybody, where are you joining from and what country are you from?
I'm joining from Cyprus.
And what country are you from?
I'm from Afghanistan, and currently I'm living in Cyprus as a refugee, actually. Yeah. About having, the number of children, actually, this what I believe is, firstly, just we have to focus on, the parents. The parents should understand, before they give birth to the child, and they should understand, how are they capable of, just doing the things which a child needs. Those things. First, do they have that enough? Illiteracy, or are they literate? That that they can be able to provide the things like education or the economy, or we have like mentally everything that a child needs. It's really difficult. Somehow it depends on the context and in the environment, the country. Today we can see that there are some countries that they are limited the number of children for people, that that they are not letting the people to have more than like 2 or 3 children. But there are a lot of countries that they are encouraging people to give birth to the as much as many as they can, actually, the people. But there are a lot of countries that that they don't know about giving birth to the many children. and having many children cause a lot of problems, ahead of them. I have come from a background, from a country that I have seen a lot of things in my country that, that they are believing that when you're giving birth to a child, so it doesn't need anything, only Allah gives food, Allah provides all the things, they need actually these things and many other things. Even the parents, they think that, we should have a child because when we are getting older, when we're becoming very old, and our children should have our hand and help us until just we are passing from this world. Actually, yeah. So it depends on the society. It depends on some kind of religions, ideals, everything. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Those are some great insights. Let's quickly go to Fatima and then Leroy, and so that we can move on to the next slides. Fatima?
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. Can
Fatima,
you hear me?
You're joining from what country and city?
Yeah, I'm telling you about me. Can everybody hear me?
Yes. What country and city?
Okay. I'm from Pakistan, and the province I belong is KP. So I'm basically working as a teacher's trainer, and I conduct awareness session in communities as well for parents, and since long I'm working as a trainer from last 16 years. So just in the answer of this question, it just came in my mind that I should share about the Pakistani scenario. Like every woman has a limited stamina. So giving birth is also difficult for too many children, and taking care is also becomes very difficult because every human has a limited stamina. So if they take a decision of having so many children, definitely they are ruining their own life and their children's life, because they won't receive the basic rights because of there are too many. Mother and father cannot pay attention equally to every child. There are so much emotional support needed to children because they are in a young age. They don't understand so many things, but parents cannot pay attention because of too many children at home. Plus, child abuse is very common. It's becoming very common in Pakistan. And I personally believe that it's because when you are having so many children, you cannot take care of them. You just tell them go and play outside, and then they become a victim of child abuse. So this is also one of the the most important reason. Plus, they cannot, most of the time, Pakistan is not a very rich country, you know about Pakistan. So giving education to every child and a proper schooling system, it becomes very, difficult for them. Though primary and elementary education is free in Pakistan, but even then they involve their children in child labor. It's also a common thing in Pakistan, because there are so many and one person cannot feed all of them. So again, it becomes very difficult to to raise a child properly. And there are so many out of school children in Pakistan. Like we were working, I was working in JICA, and we were working in policy making. So we could make a policy for out of school children, so we could educate them, because there is a proper schooling system for children, but from government, but not for out of school overage children. So we were working on the policies and the curriculum making and everything. Like I want to say that only decision, if you make a careless decision or a wrong decision about having so many children, just because they make you happy or it's your satisfaction, so it ruins the whole future of a person. And it goes to generation, because an uneducated child, and when he grows up, though he learns skills or some labor work, but when he grows up, he is not empowered fully. So it ruins the whole future of the person, not only the person, but his generation as well. So like I was talking about the Pakistani scenario. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatima, for sharing that. Leroy?
Yeah. All right. So I will first let us say having a huge number of children is not bad, but what makes it bad is that if you have the children and you do not have the financial strength to take care of every single one of them, school them, feed them, and clothe them or shelter them, there where the problem can come. Here in Liberia, in Africa, especially Liberia, we have similar cases that here, where family will bear the children and do not have the capacity to take care of them all. And at the end result, you will notice that some of the children will become criminals. They started hijack people, material, start to steal material from other people, getting it forcefully. And one of the other aspect is that some of those children, the ones that are serious to go to school, or that their parents will be able to send them to school, because of little income or small resources available, they will not be able to meet up with the criteria in their school. And at the end result, most of their peers or mates will be able to, quickly stigmatize them and make them to feel inferiors. And once a person feels inferiors in our setting here in our society, automatically that person gets angry. And once that person is angry, he or she might likely do something to harm the person that makes them inferiors, or make them, to be stigmatized and be shy among their friends. So this had negatively affected our society greatly in the past. Some I also have even resulted into conflict between tribes, where you will see this tribe and this tribe going against each other. You will see this person and this fighting against each other, all as the result of large number of family without taking good care of them. So basically, that's why I say having huge number of children is not bad, but before you have such number of children, you should look at your income and at least be able to work in line with what you have. And mind you, in Liberia here, most people are not literate to how to protect themselves to protect themselves when they do not being child at the moment. So basically, things that can be the cause of having a huge number of children in Europe. But the reality is, it is not bad to have them, but you should be able to take care of them. If you are not able to take care of them, then automatically they will become criminals in the society and begin to affect the society negatively. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leroy. As much as I hate doing this, we're going to have to move forward. I think we could spend the whole next hour and a half talking about this, and your insights are wonderful. So Bilal and Tang Yu, we're gonna keep you on the back burner here, and I'll call on you first for the next thing if you guys have a comment. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, because this is what we're really talking about here, is fertility rates. There we go. Fertility rates, which are a great example of demography and how we can use them. We go backwards here. Okay, so if we look at what fertility rates are, there are different ways to measure them, and that makes things kind of messy when you're looking statistically. Fertility rates refer to the actual number of births, and as already been said, what's necessary for replacement is 2.1 babies. That doesn't mean you give birth to an arm. 2.1 means on average, and that is because if you only have 2 babies, if one were to die, you haven't replaced the couple. So we need 2.1 to be a replacement level. Now, it's interesting that pre-industrial societies tend to have lifetime fertility rates of 6 or 7 children per woman. This is below what a woman could have. It appears that women could have the average, what they call fecundity rate, which is how many babies women on average can have, is around 10 to 11 children. But we know some women, like my husband's mother, had 15 children. So, but these will vary by country and by group and by individual. Now, how many children are born into families can be influenced and regulated in several ways. One way is manifest fertility regulation. This is where you deliberately try to not have children, or maybe deliberately try to have children. So we call this manifest fertility regulation. This is like birth control pills to limit pregnancy, but it could also include wearing special jewelry, prayers, charms, rituals, abortion. These are things that we deliberately do to get pregnant or not. This is called manifest fertility regulation. But there's also something called latent fertility regulation. And these are unconscious and hidden practices that actually influence how many children people have. For example, if people are allowed to marry at 12, 13 years of age, likely they'll have a lot of children. If they are allowed to marry not until they're 21 or 25, and some countries are changing even their constitutions to this, it actually decreases how many children that people have. A lot of times governments aren't doing this to actually change how many children people are having, but these are like outcomes. Other things that can influence how many children people have are things like the type of marriage. Polygamy actually decreases the number of children overall. I won't get into how that works. Most people think it increases, but it actually decreases. War is a type of latent fertility regulation as young men die. So we've got manifest and we've got latent fertility regulation. Now, do you think the world has a population problem? We'll take 2 people to answer this question. All right, Tan-Yu, we'll start with you. We cannot hear you. And also, can you tell us where you're from? You're on, there you go.
Hi, everyone. I come from China, but now I live in America. Yeah, I live in America for like the 12 years now. So
and where in China?
In Sichuan State and Chengdu City.
I taught in Chengdu.
Yes. So, but now I study in Towson University as arts education. So yeah, also I teach little kids. So very quick, because I haven't got too much time to deeply think in this question. Do you think the world has a population problem? Personally, I don't think the world has a population problem. At most of the countries in the whole world. Yeah, I think the population, that's enough. But some of the country, they do have a population problem, depends on their age. For example, like Japan, they have a population problem because they have faced to the worker resource, the labor force, decay. Because Japan is started to step into the old age society. that's a very heavy duty for government, for family, for the whole society. And I think China started this, have to face the problem too. That's why a lot of factory, they already moved to another country. Yeah. So the population problem for me, it could be like a human resource who can concentrate to different field, different area. Yeah. So I think so that, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Begum also has an interesting insight in chat. We have maybe a population management problem because some people are starving to death because of lack of resources. So maybe not necessarily a population problem, but a population management problem. Let's go ahead to the next slide here. This is showing the birth rate for countries. So this is what we do with demography. And this shows, this particular picture shows birth rates per 1,000 population per year. Again, there are different ways of looking at this. If you look at this next picture, this map, next map, shows the average number of children born to a woman during her lifetime. The darker the color, the greater number of children. So France at 1.7 children in a lifetime has a lower fertility rate than Egypt at 3.6 children. So that looks a little bit different. Now here's an interesting one. The next slide shows that women are having fewer children around the world. And this can differ by region. Bethany, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, well, all of these, it's so hard. We have a lot of really interesting data and we don't have a whole lot of time to talk about all the things, but so the United Nations fairly recently did a report looking at global trends. And it's really interesting as we talk about these global trends, because as exactly what you all have pointed out, it's hard to say globally, does the world have a population problem? I loved the answer, both yes and no. Right, it depends on region and where you're at, and not even just by country, but even smaller than that. But globally, they have found that there's fewer births per woman, and again, this is different from region to region. But they found that between 1990 and 2019, the global fertility rate fell from 3.2 to 2.5 live births per woman, and so that's a pretty significant decrease. And then, if you want, there's numbers for various regions here. Just for a few examples, in Southern Asia, it decreased from 1.9, or decreased by 1.9 births in that time frame. In Australia, New Zealand, Europe, it decreased by 0.1. So it was already smaller and it decreased less. In Sub-Saharan Africa, they dropped from 6.3 to 4.6. And so we're seeing that although the change, the exact kind of amount of change differs by region, there does seem to be an overall trend of decrease. Latin America went from 3.3 to 2. And we saw that between 2010 and 2019, 7 of the 10 countries witnessing the largest reductions in fertility rate were in Sub-Saharan Africa. And again, there's a lot of specific things. Yes, and put stuff in the chat. We want those comments coming in. And so it's just an interesting trend. What it means, we can talk about as we go further down the line, because as you've all mentioned, this has implications personally and on a grander level. And we
so, we don't exactly know why this is happening. Some people think it's because we have more women being educated and starting to work, the introduction of contraception and more fail-safe contraception, that kind of thing can be improving. But again, what does this mean? Let's take a look at the next slide. I'd like to introduce you to this group in the United States called the Shakers. And this is why government is concerned with how many babies people have. They were called Shakers because they would get, it's a religious organization and it's in New York. And they would get filled with the Spirit and begin kind of shaking. And so they call themselves Shakers. Shakers believed in celibacy. That means having no sex. And so the only way you could increase your numbers is by have more people join your group. So by adopting. Back in the mid 1800s, Shakers were a large part of New York. They had 250,000 a group in this area. Today, there are 2 Shakers left. There are only 2 Shakers left. That's kind of interesting. We need to, as was stated, as one of you stated, we have to be able to continue to have children and to grow if we want to keep our countries viable and also growing. How we do that is a matter of debate. Okay, now if we look at fertility, family policies and fertility, we will find that there are some countries that are trying to increase fertility. Europe has not enough people. You would think that a place like Italy would have lots of people because of Catholic beliefs and having children. But Italy actually has fewer people. Italy and Spain have the lowest fertility rates in all of Europe, and it's way below replacement level. That's very concerning. Iraq, Singapore, these are examples of countries that are trying to increase fertility. And now we have China. China decreased it. And now China's saying, wait, we need more. And so that's kind of interesting. Some countries are attempting to reduce fertility, such as Mexico and Algeria, Haiti, India, Jordan, Kenya, Nigeria. But most countries have very few intervention policies. Now, I will tell you that it is easier to decrease the fertility rate than it is to increase. And some of these places are trying unique things. In Singapore, they were looking at giving homes to people who have 4 children or more. And it doesn't seem to be working. Japan is another one that is actually, they don't have replacement rates. So that can influence us in many different ways. Bethany, the next one. I'll let you talk about these, Bethany.
I was going to respond. There's a question about France, and I don't have the current number right now, but I did find an article that says that
it's 1.7.
Yes, but as of 2017, they said Europe has, they're failing to produce enough children to keep their population constant, but France is an exception. As of 2015, they had the highest number of births and the highest fertility rate. That was 1.96 at the time, but they said it's because they were doing things that seemed to be working to increase fertility. So it's interesting about some of the policies and things that they've instituted to try to encourage.
So some of those policies might be things like free daycare, paying people to take off a year from work and be able to return back to their job. A spouse being able to a partner being able to take off of work also. So you could get like 2 years of support, things like that. So that might be helping them.
And so that's actually what we're seeing here. This is a quick summary of some of the policies that countries are using to either lower, maintain, or raise fertility rates. And what they found is 42% of governments have adopted one or more policies to lower current levels of fertility. 28% of governments adopted policies to raise the level of fertility. And those policies, we just mentioned a few examples, are, some of them are more direct than others, and some of them may have been done more intentionally than others. But when it comes to lowering fertility rates, examples of that: raising the minimum age of marriage, providing access to reproductive health care, low-cost, safe, effective contraception, integrating family planning and safe motherhood programs into healthcare systems, improving female education. Oh, sorry. Do you know why I keep doing that? Is I'm trying to scroll through the text, and then it scrolls through our presentations. So those are examples of things that they can do to lower. When it comes to wanting to increase fertility rates, again, it's what we just saw. Policies like baby bonuses, where they'll actually pay if you have a baby, family allowances, maternal, parental, paternal leave, tax incentive, flexible work schedule. Some of the examples in France were subsidized daycare. And so the cost of daycare has a huge impact on, whether people want children, how many children people have. And some research actually has found that many women are not having as many children as they want. And so we see that fertility rate has decreased, which can have benefits and can be good things. It might be related to more education and more choice. But we're also seeing some of these numbers coming down because women aren't having as many as they want, which could be related to the cost of childcare, which could be related to work and feeling like they can leave work or not leave work. So it's really interesting how these policies go back and forth and impact each other. And I've got one more here that's similar. So again, this is similar, but it breaks it down a little bit differently in terms of policies to influence the level of fertility. And you can see how many, you can see globally, and then also by kind of region wants to raise, maintain, and lower, and what people are doing for that. Do you have anything else to say about fertility rates, Denise, before we move on?
I just wanted to say
side?
about this table. So if you look at North America, 100%, 2 countries, we have no interventions related to maintaining, raising, lowering. I think people might sort of disagree with that. Like, you do get money off your income tax. I don't know if that people have babies because they get $3,000 off their income tax. But really no direct interventions. Latin America, 1/3 of 33 countries have no interventions, but 33 have lower. So that's how 33% have lower. So that's how you read this particular table. Okay, Bethany, take it away. Mortality rates.
I keep muting and unmuting because I have a baby and babysitters coming in to show me her lumberjack outfit that they dressed her in. Okay, so we're going to look at the other side of the coin. Fertility rate is a very important demographic measure, but kind of hand in hand with that is our mortality rate, which is the estimated number of deaths in a population divided by the total number of population for a given year. What are they using and how can we provide to the citizens? Do you mind telling us more about these policies? Very broadly, we mentioned a few of those. Is that what you're, I think you're talking about, Leroy, is the policies for raising can be baby bonuses and childcare and parental leave, paid parental leave is a big one. And then the other side is changing the age, legal age when people can get married can decrease the fertility rate. Okay, so the global life expectancy at birth has reached 72.8 years in 2019. So what we're seeing is that we're having fewer babies, but we're seeing that life expectancy has increased. And that's an improvement of about 9 years since 1990. It's really loud. Now I've got a baby rocker going in here. I'm sorry.
And what that means is for life expectancy is determined by the age that people die averaged. So if you have a country with 2 people and 1 person, or we'll say 4 people, and 1 person dies at 80 and 1 person dies at birth, life expectancy is 40. So life expectancy has increased because babies are not dying at the rate that they used to. So once you get past a certain age, and this has always been, even in our past, we've seen once you get past a certain age, you're more likely to live. So if you can reach 30, you're more likely to live to 70 or 80. But it's getting to 20 and 30, that can be the issue. Go ahead, Bethany.
We've also seen that things like there's been a 23%. Now I've got a crying baby that has been left in there. We've seen that there's been a 23% decline in HIV and AIDS since 2010. And that'll impact life expectancy. There's also been declines because of less disease, better access to clean water, sanitation, increased and improved health services. So there's a lot of things that factor into Hey, Denise, I'm going to let you highlight this for a second while I deal with the crying baby.
This again is demography. So you can see how they measure. This is deaths per thousand. So purple areas have 51 deaths per thousand, which is not as much, very much. When you get to the red areas, you have 450 deaths per thousand. That's a lot of people dying. So mortality rates vary around the world, and that's for male. I don't know if she can get me to female because I have no control over this. There we go. There's female. And you can see the differentiation between male and female.
Wow.
Next.
So
I think that's just really interesting. Oh, sorry.
Just to clarify quickly, it sounds like if I'm reading this right, in some countries, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, the death rate can reach 450 per thousand per year. In other words, almost half of 1,000 people, every 1,000 people in parts of sub-Saharan Africa are dying every year. Pretty amazing.
And a lot of children. Those are a lot of children. Yeah. Go ahead, Bethany.
Well, and I also think it's interesting to look at, we might just say mortality rate, but to see the difference just in one simple measure in terms of gender, right? That some of these countries can almost flip-flop and have some pretty substantial changes based on gender. So all of this is really interconnected with other issues, with other social issues, with health issues, with access to resources in healthcare. So, and social policies, right? It's just all of it, that this demography stuff is fascinating because it's so complex. And we look at fertility rate, and that's important, but then you look at mortality rate, and then they play together to have an impact on society.
And if you look at female mortality rate, you need to consider maternal mortality rate. So here's an example of maternal mortality. This is women who die, and it can be measured in different ways. It's often measured like within 50 days of birth. So women who die maybe while giving birth versus up to 50 days after giving birth. And if you look at the female mortality rate in the United States compared to these other countries, we're pretty high up there. And there are several different reasons for that. We're in the top third for all the countries. All right, so we're like number 33, or I guess that's the top, more than top 30. We're 33 out of 147 countries, I think it is, in terms of maternal mortality. And this can be due to a lot of different things. This can be due to in the United States, more older women are giving birth, and more older women are more likely than to die. You're at higher risk of dying. Also, we have 1 out of 3 births in the United States are C-section, cesarean section. They're not natural births, and that also carries a risk of dying. So there could be many things. It could also be prenatal care and people either accessing it or not accessing it, when they access it, whether they want to access it or not, whether they see that it's available to them or not. So there's lots of different reasons that the US has this high mortality rate in comparison to these other countries. Bethany?
Okay, so this is sort of where things come together. Is we have declining mortality and fertility rates, and so it's, you all have mentioned this, has resulted in rapid aging in a number of countries. Globally, life expectancy increased by more than 6 years between 2000 and 2019. So from 66.8 to 73.4. So this is similar to the other numbers I'd mentioned before. And some estimates aren't always great, but some estimate that by 2050, the average longevity could be 77.2 years. And so as the population of older people is increasing, that has implications. And we're finding too that the share of the global population age 65 and over is projected to rise from 10% in 2022 to 16% in 2050. So a greater proportion of our population is expected to be over 65. And here is a lovely chart to kind of highlight what we're seeing. And so this darker green is younger than 15, the proportion of the population that's younger than 15. And then we have 15 to 64, and then 65 and older. And we can see that 65, that kind of light brown color at the top, used to be a small sliver, and it's getting to be a larger portion of what we have. Anything to add, Denise, before I click? One thing that's interesting is we can see from 1950 to 2010, there was rapid growth. The global population nearly tripled, and the US population doubled, but the population growth in that time, now it's expected to be slower, but it's larger for the older group. And great comment. I'll let you go, Denise.
All right. The next thing that we need to look at too, that's right. And we're going to be talking about caring for the elderly, Paul. So, and how that looks in different countries and different policies. So the next kind of demography thing that we enjoy looking at are population pyramids. A population pyramid is known as an age-sex pyramid, and it's just an illustration that shows the various age groups. So, for example, 1995 India versus 1995 China. If you look at India, you had lots of children this particular year from 0 to 4.
Sorry.
There we go. And then you had people die, and you have this kind of triangle shape going straight up. So you look at the ages of what, let's say 54 to 20. Those are the people that really are kind of supporting the country, right? They're the ones who are working, they're the ones who are educating, they're the ones who are giving healthcare. And so the number of children that you have down here can make a huge difference if you don't have a whole lot of people above you to be able to do that. If you look at China, China decided to have a one-child policy, and you can see about what year that happened when you count backwards. But their pyramid ended up becoming started inverting. And then they started saying, oh my gosh, now we have too few people that by the time they get to age 20, 30, 40, we don't have enough workers to fulfill the economic needs of our country. So we need to change that. So they changed some of their policies. Now, Bethany, you go ahead and put this on so that people can take a look at how their country looks now and how it might look in the future.
Okay, I'm going to share it for this link. Is that?
Yeah.
It's not letting me copy the link. I'm going to copy the link so I can put it in the chat for you all. Maybe I can click it. Okay, but you can't see this. I'm going to send this here so you all can jump on and look at any country you want. I can show you. I'll share this also. There we go.
Can you stop the share of the?
Hopefully it did. Did it work or no?
It works.
Okay. And so here. Sorry,
so who wants to give us the name of their country, and we'll put it in here.
Liberia.
All right, so there you have Liberia, which is really quite a narrow pyramid.
I think it's interesting to see, at least when we know, I'm not so sure about how accurate we know till, I don't know what we're going to call it, 2100. But to see the changes over time and kind of how those pyramids can shift.
Bethany or Denise, do you want to explain to us why it is? It seems like there's a general trend probably among countries, and there's an assumption here that as you go along in years, as we advance in the number of, go from 1975 to like say 2050 or so, it's assuming that economic conditions are going to get better for families, and hence the if I'm understanding correctly, that the shape of this is going to kind of move upward, so that there are going to be more elderly people, more people living longer, and then fewer people as resources increase, fewer people having children. So the kind of this thing kind of changes over time, with the large mass moving upwards in this pyramid. Is that correct?
Yes, and it's not just economics too, it's technology, medicine, healthcare, that kind of thing. Bethany, do Qatar.
You could spend all day on this looking at some of these different numbers and trends, but I mean, it's so interesting.
Now look at this. There is, this shows you males compared to females. And you'll notice that they start off pretty equal. And then around age 20, the males start outnumbering females. Any suggestions for why this might be? This has probably a lot to do with immigration and bringing in men to work in that country. Because that's who we bring in. We don't necessarily bring in families, we bring in the men to build and do whatever it is that they're doing over in that country. Can you see that could maybe lead to some issues? Finding mates for people? I don't know what it's like over there. Try Pakistan, Bethany. Fatima would like to see Pakistan. I've got a feeling some of you are playing with it on your own computers because you're being awfully quiet.
Let's get out of 2100.
Yutang has her hand up.
Yes.
And you.
Yeah, actually, so I have a question. Normally, generally, research already proved that male live longer than female. This is a kind of a natural things happened to our society. I just wondering, so you just showed that the figures, it showed, looks like the male from age around 30 to 60, around that, it looks like the male is declared more than female. So I just wondering about it, what is that natural happen, or because the man works more than women? But it's hard to tell, right? Some women work harder than men. I want to know the reason.
Universally, there are a few exceptions. Universally, women tend to outlive men. They're not sure why. Part of that could be because of things like war. Part of it can be because of hormones and estrogen. There are some countries where that is not the case. And usually that's related to other issues and policies, especially related to what the woman is allowed to do, if she's allowed to go to doctors, that kind of thing. But generally, and also if men are working, they're usually working in more dangerous type of occupations. So men can die in their occupations. So men tend to have a shorter lifespan on average than women, and that's kind of a universal thing.
But why the men die at that age? So interesting. From already start, the genders average, I mean, most equal, and in the end, the most equal. It's just in the middle. In the middle, it looks like the man is declared than women. Yeah. So very interesting to notice this. Thank you.
And it's also interesting, Tang, that men, we have more boy babies being born than female babies on average.
Oh, interesting.
And
yeah. I heard this many years ago. But I don't know, this is global phenomenon or just a couple of countries.
Yeah.
Is this a global
I don't know, because the only resources that I've seen related to that tends to be from the US.
Okay.
Not a lot of people gather this kind of data.
So you
Yes, men die earlier, Begum.
It's
that could also be related to risk. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Yes, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, it can also be related to risk taking. We talked about riskier jobs, but also men might be more likely to do risky behaviors. Maybe, I look in my family, jump off of cliffs, right? Like cliff diving and things like that. There's different behaviors that might be more likely among men that could also reduce life expectancy.
Zineng and Leroy. So Zineng from China and Leroy from Liberia have their hands up.
Yes. So first, I want to clarify one point here is that, honestly speaking, females live longer than males. Yeah. Generally speaking, because I'm learning psychology and the sociology of family, and I also learn history, so I know the like the population trend and population figure in the world. And according to the academic, honestly speaking, the females live longer than males because of different hormones and like many different factors. But like, for example, like in Japan, the males live life longer than females. And so it's the first point I want to clarify. And the second point I want to say here is that the influence of one-child policy may not be perfectly reflected by this figure, because it's ignored that in some villages of China, some baby girls, like it's not a stigmatization to my motherland, but I think we should take it into account. Like at that time, in some villages, some girl infants were abandoned or maybe just killed by their grandparents or by their father, because of the inequality between the genders in China at that time was very severe. So that's why in today's North America and in Australia, we can see many good Chinese girls who are very outstanding, but they are adopted by their Western fathers and their white fathers. So maybe we have to think about that the gender ratio in today's China is not very equal or not balanced. In other words, today there are more men than women in China. So many men became bachelors, and they sometimes, if they want to get married with a woman, they have to pay the very large number of money to their to the parents of their wife or maybe of their girlfriend, so that they are allowed to get married with her. And it's also the reason that's why there are so many gender conflicts between male and female in today's China, because of these historical legacies. Yeah, but I really want to just pose this point and mention this point and emphasize this point, because I think it's very important for us to learn about today's China's population, family structure, and the challenges that today's Chinese youngsters are facing. Yeah, just add this point. Thank you.
Well, I recently saw an article too about China where they're trying to they're encouraging dating, and there's social programs that they're setting up to try and get people to get together, and like matchmaking apps and things like that, and government supported connecting between people. And so it's really interesting to see how all of these things interplay with policy and
yes, just a very quick add up is that today's China, the arranged marriage became popular again, because many women want to get married so early because they have so many jobs to do, and they can use this chance to explore their potential and to get promotion in workplace. However, if they get married and have children, which means there's the opportunity cost is pretty high. But the parents, because of the traditional Chinese ideology, Confucianism ideology, the women should be housewives and the men should be breadwinners. So many women are encouraged to get arranged marriage. That's who are get married with men who are just advised by their parents or by their friends or by their colleagues, because even in today, some people many people still believing that getting married is the aim of a woman, and if a woman doesn't get married, her life is imperfect. It's imperfect. So just one add up. But just one add up to make everybody understand it further and better. Yeah.
I see hands. I'm thinking we need to keep moving because we have a lot more slides, but this is, I've loved all the thoughts. I love how you all have captured the many facets that impact this, and even getting into kind of cultural beliefs and values is playing into this. And have fun on this page. I think there's all sorts of fun stuff to find. Let me see if I can share the right thing now. Maybe. I don't know what I'm sharing. Am I sharing the slide? Am I sharing my regular presentation?
You're sharing the slides.
Yes, the PowerPoint.
The PowerPoint, but not the presentation.
Okay. See, once you leave that, it's all over. Let's see.
There you go.
There we go. Okay.
Just flip through the next few slides because we've already talked about the population pyramids.
Yeah, well, now y'all are floating on top of my slides. Okay.
Let's flip through.
That's right. Your faces are everywhere.
Flip through.
Let me see. Do we have anything? Do you want to say any closing things about this? Well, we'll talk about kind of family, the implications of this, I think, in a little bit. And we've touched on implications, so let's just keep moving. Okay.
Okay, so really, we need to look at, and you guys have touched on this very nicely. The carrying capacity of a country is important for determining what is an optimum. There are some countries that could actually have more people and it wouldn't be a problem. In other countries, they cannot afford to have all those people. There's not enough what they call carrying capacity. So countries such as Japan, Singapore, Sweden, they're trying to bring their population levels back to ones that are not too large and not too small, that can support their resources. And then if they can do this, then their families and people will have a better quality of life. And they'll have better services and infrastructure and incomes, that kind of stuff. Now, Bethany, can you go ahead and click through these? Europe in general has declining fertility rates, which means that their total fertility rate is below 2.1. And that also means then they have an aging population. And so you have three choices of what to do when this is the case. You can either increase immigration so that you'll have enough people to work and take care of things, or you can change the welfare state. In other words, we're not going to give as much money to people because we can't afford it, or you can try to increase fertility rates. And as has been stated before, people have not been very successful at increasing fertility rates to that replacement level. France has recently shown a little bit of improvement, but it's still not to replacement level. Increasing immigration isn't necessarily the best thing to do, because what typically happens is the immigrants end up also having fewer children. And so it doesn't really, it helps temporarily. And changing the welfare state, well, we see what happens when we say we're going to change retirement age from 55 to 60, and you've got people in the streets just having conniption fits. So these are the things, these are the choices. It's not easy. It's not easy. And this is like where you guys come in for all of the places that you work and live in. It also leads us to our discussion of globalization and how globalization influences family. So globalization means that our world is interconnected. It means that we're interdependent. And this is because of trade and government policies and exchanges. Bethany, can you do the, there you go. Also, globalization has empowered families. It has affected, it has led to changes in the roles of women and social status and decision-making, the type of work that people do to survive. It's changed dramatically with globalization. And those are all good things, but it has also had some disadvantages. And those disadvantages, people see forced Westernization. And so there's like backlash against values, for example. People want to hold on to their values and traditions, which are important for their culture. But it has affected economics and roles and power structures and families. And families have to work to maintain their families and protect their members. So sometimes cultural practices are considered human rights violations, and globalization has led to these kinds of ideas. And other people say that it's not a human rights violation. As we consider and work to affect changes in policies, we need to be aware that families act as a buffer between globalizing forces and the choices and challenges that women, men, and children face on a daily basis. Decisions about employment and migration, marriage, gender roles, caretaking are subject to family life and local culture. And so for this reason, family policy needs to be at the forefront of every nation's agenda. What you guys are doing is important. Begum, you said carrying capacity is actually called carrying capacity.
Caring, right? Caring.
Yes,
Sorry,
caring.
sorry.
No,
I
I prefer carrying capacity. I think that's better. But no, it's carrying capacity is how much can a country carry.
Oh, thank you so much. I thought that I was wrong in this. Thanks.
Bethany, you want to take the next one? Family issues.
This we could talk about for 24 hours and still not be done. Everything we've been talking about ties back into family issues, right? Family issues, social issues that impact the family. And we've seen that, my gosh, I had things to say and they all disappeared. Oh, wow. You know, as we look at the demographics with aging, with birth rates, mortality rates, with trends in immigration, these things factor into the issues that families are facing. We've got issues related to economics. We've got issues related to childcare and the rising costs of childcare. And some countries have done things to try to impact the cost of childcare and to support families. Other countries do not. Similarly, related to elder care, we've seen that we have this aging population. We have a need to take care of this aging population, and it differs by culture and region with what we do about that. It could be welfare programs that support this aging population. It could be laws, which there are laws where children are expected to provide financially, spiritually, socially for their elders. And now that you are required legally to do that, is that how we handle the situation? We know that there are fewer families living together intergenerationally. And so what do we do relating to elder care? We've also got issues of immigration and families that get separated through migration, as, for example, men go to work and provide for their families. What is that doing for the family? What are the needs of the family? What resources could there be? What are the challenges? Is there a way to help us counter those challenges and support families in their situations? We also see that there's expanding religious differences, even within families, and that can impact how families connect, how families interact together. And some of those religious traditions are important as ways of unifying. And as those things change, what's needed? What does it mean? Social media. I mean, that's a huge one. How is social media impacting families? And how are families potentially interacting with social media? And it's changing how family members might connect or not connect. It's changing what people are seeing and what children are seeing. We talk about globalization. All of a sudden, all of these children, adolescents, young adults can see everything, right? They have access to standards of beauty, standards of behavior, new ideology. That's impacting our families. And it's something that we need to pay attention to. Chia.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm Chia Terence from Cameroon, presently in the United Arab Emirates. I have a concern. I have two questions I want to ask regarding the men who died before their women. Yes, I observe also this because even in my country we have so many widowers, and I don't know why the men keep dying. So I would like to know why the men keep dying before them. And again, I would like to ask this question. Okay, now there are countries like they keep increasing their population, and the other countries are not growing in terms of population. What become of situations like this? Others growing and others are not growing in terms of population. Who is going to regulate the situation? Is it the government or is it the family policy? This our program we are running that we need to educate some of the government or to change the laws, or how are they going to do this? Thank you.
Thank you. I had a little bit of a hard time hearing everything. I realized my speakers weren't all the way up, but I know you mentioned who is going to regulate. And I think that's one of our primary questions and concerns here with all of us in this conversation is where does that fall and what's the best way to do it? And there are things that as families, it's probably best for us to regulate within our home, but then as diplomats, we need to be getting to the next level to figure out appropriate policy changes that support families in a way that is in the healthiest way possible, if that makes sense, and being cautious in what we want the government to take a role in, to play a role in, and not play a role in. Denise, you can unmute and you can say your words.
No, I'm answering a chat.
Do you have anything to add, Denise?
No.
No.
So this,
I'm looking at
Bethany, I don't know if you guys have a kind of concluding comments. We're at the finish time, so I just want to kind of wrap things up. But
that's what I was looking at.
ask you both if you have any kind of final thoughts before I kind of wrap things up.
Bethany, take it away.
Well, demography, demographics, I feel like when you look at it, it's numbers, it's trends, it's statistics, but really when we get into it, as we've seen here, it's so much more than that. It's complex, it's nuanced. The things that impact all of these numbers, it can be personal, it can be social, political. The political can impact our families and what they look like, and our families, which is why we're here, can impact that political, that social system. And so it's important to know that those things are intertwined, and we as families can help make those changes as we are thoughtful, as we look at some of these trends specific to our regions, because they're so different globally, and we identify those needs, we can thoughtfully help make change that will support families.
Perfect.
Denise, any final thoughts?
No, she wrapped it up perfectly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that, I mean, Bethany's point is, you know, so, and this is a really important point for family diplomacy, is that just as politics and policy can impact families, and inevitably does, especially as governments become more powerful, we should, as families, have more voice. And so this is what family diplomacy is all about, is trying to give voice to our families. So I want to just close everything off by sharing my screen. Last time, and before we forget, before anybody we lose anybody, I just want to take some photos. So Dia, if you're ready to take some screenshots. Every time we meet, we take photos of everybody, we smiling, we take photos throughout the session and so on, and then we share that to our larger Facebook group, which has, as I mentioned, over 16,000 people in it. So if you could, if you're paying attention, please turn on your camera briefly, and Dia will be taking a couple of photos. So I'm going to count on 3. Make sure to turn on your cameras, Chia, Zineng, and Fatima, if you are able. On 3, please smile. 1, 2, 3, smile. Great. And Dia, if you can take another shot, or another couple of shots on 3. 1, 2, 3, smile. Fantastic. Thank you guys for taking those photos. As I mentioned, we'll be sharing them to the Facebook group, so you'll see that, plus a recording every week of this these sessions. So if you want to go back and review some of the material, some of the thoughts that have been shared and so on, you're welcome to do that through our YouTube channel. So you get a link to that in the Family Diplomacy Initiative Facebook group. I want to share my screen briefly because last time one of you asked if we could share the schedule for this training. So I have a document which I'll be sharing with you, and it's this essential document. It's about 3 pages, but it explains essentially the training, including your trainers here, Bethany and Denise, and then for the citizen diplomacy section, it'll be myself and Andreas Fulda. We have, but just to give you a heads up for next time, Denise and Bethany will be talking about, you guys, I think, may be concluding some things about demographics and trends, but shifting focus as well to family rituals, routines, and narratives. And then we'll be talking about modernity, international relations, and power as we begin to talk about citizen diplomacy, right? Getting back to your voice in international affairs and in policy making at local to international levels. So we'll be talking about those things over the next 3 weeks after the following Sunday. And then training, just want to remind you, training part 2 is all about you. It is about developing your stories as family diplomats. And that part of the training is actually longer. So we want to give you time to develop your story and to practice your story and to ultimately perform your story. And at all times, we will be recording this and then measuring improvement in your storytelling ability. So Bethany will be joining us again for one of those sessions where, like last year, 3 of them, Bethany and Ben and Elise will be providing you, Lisette will be providing you training on how to craft your stories effectively and about narrative. So I'll be sharing this with you via our Facebook chat group. So that's it for today. Thank you everybody for your great participation. It's good to see that you've been actually posting stuff to the Facebook chat. We record this stuff. I also want to thank Denise and Bethany because it looks like you guys added information to your slides from last year. So I really appreciate the fact that you're building this, and we will be sharing those slides to everybody. So really, considering how busy you guys are, I really appreciate your support of our family diplomacy initiative. So all right, everyone, have a good rest of your day, and see you next Sunday. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.